The Conservation Department is contributing to the Middle East Galleries in many ways, but the biggest part of our conservation story for the MEG Galleries is taking things apart and putting them together. Most of the objects in the galleries came from museum excavations, carried out anytime from the 1890s through the 1960s. Most of those objects had been restored previously with old adhesives and fills that have not lasted well. So we have to take everything apart and put it back together with modern materials that we've tested and know should, we hope, stay stable for at least 100 years. So there's a lot of material from an early temple to Nin Harsig from the site of El Ubaid, and so this is when people were forming into large enough groups that they could put together very elaborately decorated monuments to the gods, and that's the kind of cultural behavior that you really only see with large cities. So for each object we go through an assessment. So taking the example of the Ubaid column, which is in 4 pieces, we knew previously that it was not very stable because it had been sent out on loan and various pieces had come loose. And so we knew right from the beginning that it would need some extra treatment to be stable on exhibit. It had been restored by the excavator in the early 1920s or 30s, but he left no record of exactly what he did. So we had to start with taking X-radiographs to see what we were dealing with, which was actually a little bit of a surprise. We thought it was a wooden base with the mosaic tiles attached to it, and it turned out to be chicken wire, burlap, and plaster. And it's small wonder that after 90 years it was starting to have serious stability problems. So once we determined what the issues were, we came up with a treatment plan to remove all the pieces, to stabilize them, to produce a modern reproduction base that would be stable, would not damage the artifacts, and would look pretty much the way the original did.
Each column section is comprised of original tesserae on approximately half of each section, and the other half is reconstructed with painted plaster. And you can see the difference between here. So all the way down the line and to the right are original tesserae. To the left of this line is all painted plaster reconstruction. And that was put there by the archaeological team at El Ubaid to complete the aesthetics of the column. With our reconstruction protocol, we are no longer going to incorporate plaster fills to complete the aesthetics of the column. Instead, we are working with our photo department here at the Penn Museum to produce high-resolution archival photos of the original tesserae after they're cleaned, and then using insect pins, tacking them onto the reverse of the column sections. And this gives a better sense of the complete aesthetics of the column, and it is truer to what the original column would have looked like, completely mosaicked.
When we're working with the artifacts, I think one thing that all of the conservators find is that you get a real connection with the person who originally made the artifact. And sometimes you're just picking up an object in your hands, slip into it, and you realize that you're holding it exactly the way the person who made it held it. And that's a sort of chills up the spine moment.